Hello, National Fixed League, and welcome to the Week 1 podcast. I'm Eric Zaleski alongside Austin Revito. We're back with you for another great year of fantasy football.
We hope, yeah.
We're currently coming to you live. And you notice that I'm kind of keeping my voice down a little bit. We have Mr. Fawcett upstairs. We're at halftime of the second Monday night game, Vikings at Niners. So it's a little late, currently 11:45 Eastern Standard Time. So we're coming to you here.
I actually didn't realize it was that late.
It is getting late, but we did want to bring you
first week podcast. We had to do it.
We had to,
and the best part is we had to actually be up because we have a special guest joining us after a roller hockey game tonight.
We do, and he's actually not part of our league, but many of you know him. Whether he'll actually make it or not remains to be seen. But okay, so here we go. Welcome back. Week number 1. It's been a long off season.
Almost too long.
I'll speak for myself. It was almost an emotional weekend. We had college football last weekend, which was great. Kind of ease us back into the swing of things. But for college football Saturday, NFL football Sunday, and then these Monday night games, it's been a very special weekend, one I've really looked forward to for a long time. So I'm just ecstatic that it's back. My overall quality of life has improved.
I think you could say probably the male overall quality of life in the United States has improved.
That is a fair statement, and it's absolutely great to have it back. Of course, a lot of fantasy football stuff we're going to get to cover here.
We have no itinerary for this, no scripts, no nothing for this. We actually have been watching the games, and then there's people been in and out. And
it's been a crazy night, and we should mention we're over at my new place over here in Bridgeville.
5122 Blank Street Drive.
Empire Drive.
I don't want to give your address out, but now that we've done it,
it's okay. Anybody's welcome.
We need to give our sponsor.
Anybody that watches this podcast is a friend of mine, and
sponsors for the evening. I think Giant Eagle Water should be a sponsor. We've been using them literally since last season.
Giant Eagle Water. Drink early, drink often. A refreshing beverage.
We'll give Southern Tier Warlock a sponsor as well. It's a good beer. It's a bomber. You can pick it up at your local Market District Giant Eagle.
All right, so let's jump into it a little bit here. As you mentioned, this is going to be a little bit raw. We're kind of getting back into the swing of things here. Week number 1.
We haven't done one of these since hockey season.
Yeah. So we haven't really looked at any scores. We're going to kind of be just kind of going through the flow, and typically that's what we do anyway, but really starting raw here. I don't really remember anybody's teams except my own.
I actually don't. I'm looking through these, and I'm concerned that I don't know any of these team names.
So we're going to go through it. It's going to be a little bit of a learning curve here, but we'll have fun with it.
There's a text, so let's make sure that's on it.
So I did want to, of course, send a little shout-out here to the newest member of the National Fixed League, and that is Mr. Kurt Ott. I hear Fawcett moving around upstairs. I hope we're not being too loud, as we are trying to keep it down. But, welcome to the league, Curtis Ott, also known as the Steel Curtain. He, of course, took the place of my dad this past season, so we're happy to have Kurt along board here, and I think he's going to enjoy
looks like he's going to get a win
throughout the year. So
it looks like he might set the high score in the league this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and we'll start off with the newcomers matchup here, and that was the Steel Curtain versus Cologne, and I believe he had the same name last year, Colin Fawcett.
He had the same. What's the picture thing? Avatars.
Yep.
He had the same Cologne. It looks like a bat from Batman. I'm not sure if that's what he intended, but that's what it is.
Yeah, there it is. His actually just carried over from last year. It actually stays in the system since I just renewed the league. So I'm sure he didn't change much anything.
Cologne space period is his team name.
So let's start breaking down the first matchup. And you mentioned Kurt off to a fantastic start here in week number 1. And again, we still have a second half to go between the Vikings and the Niners, which may have very minimal fantasy implications. We will make note of that here, but I really don't at this point expect that to affect too much fantasy outcome. But we will see as we go along here. So starting with Steel Curtain, he had a guy going here Monday night, and he goes by the name of Matthew Ryan, the Atlanta quarterback. Big win over the Philadelphia Eagles this evening. He put up 16.6, but just going down his lineup here and naming some of the notable guys. And what can you say about Matthew Forte out of Chicago, a guy that not a lot of fantasy experts were high on to kick off the year. He was arguably the number 1 running back in week 1 of the National Football League.
Him, and it seemed like and weirdly a guy who I had on my team, which usually never bodes well for any fantasy player. The old reliables this week. Matthew
Morris,
Forte
right?
and Alfred Morris, they both had their good weeks, and then it kind of looks like some of the players that everyone wanted to draft early, sans Lev Bell because he's suspended, and even, including Peterson in the game we're watching right now. Peterson's getting spelled by the Assman and
Jerick
McKinnon.
Yeah.
So it seems that Matt Forte was a great play. 141 yards and a touchdown. He was catching balls all over the place against Green Bay.
I mean,
They looked good.
Chicago was giving him a ton of opportunities. So
Yeah.
that's looking like a fantastic first-round pick for the Steel Curtain. And to be quite honest with you, one that I didn't really like at the time. I saw him go put that up.
When was that?
He was
first
later,
round?
He was later in the first
Yeah.
round, but it was his first-round pick, and I was thinking, along with a lot of the fantasy experts, I'm not so high on him this year. He's kind of getting up there in age. Trestman's gone, who really liked to feature Forte, so I didn't really know how that was all going to kind of come together. But Matt Forte, I mean, if the first week is any indication, look out, Loretta.
Yeah,
Could
he
be a
was-
future Hall of Famer.
He was
coming
the
your way.
8th pick in the draft for Kurt. So Kurt kind of had Kurt actually didn't have to deal with the C.J. Anderson pick, who we'll get to at some point.
We
He
absolutely will.
sucked.
But
Yeah.
let's not get too off track as we have been known to do, and let's try to stay on the matchup here. Going down the Steel Curtains lineup, and oh my God, Julio Jones, ladies and gentlemen, the Ryan to Julio connection. I'm very envious of that. I've been on the record before talking about my history with those two guys. I won a championship with those two guys that are near and dear to my heart.
You mentioned that earlier that you had a trio at that point.
I
You
had Ryan, Julio,
Tony G, yeah.
and the retired tight end, former Atlanta Falcon, Tony Gonzalez. But man, that Ryan to Julio connection, get ready for some points, Steel Curtain, because they're coming.
No, I'm reading right here off the stat line on the phone. 9 for 141 and 2 touchdowns. I think you said he had like 7 for 80 and 2 touchdowns in the first half.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he really didn't actually do much at all in the second half, but that's a guy who has a chance to contend for the number 1 overall wide receiver spot. Very impressive.
And it kind of seemed like it was him, AB, and Dez in the top, I guess you could say the top 3-ish, sort of.
That's fair.
And I would go in and I would have said that Julio Jones would have been the third person I'd pick out of all those. Well, we all kind of look like idiots now because Demaryius Thomas and Antonio Brown were taken in the first round. Both laid a little bit of and Dez Bryant. Sorry.
No. Antonio Brown.
Did he have a good day?
He had a big week because he had a touchdown with 2 seconds left in the game.
Oh,
But we'll get to all that again.
But needless to say, Julio Jones looks like a really nice player for your fantasy
And again,
squad.
it's only week 1, and we're obviously going to overreact to everything that we saw over the first week.
As we should.
As everybody does.
Right.
I mean, that's the fun of it, really.
Right.
But Julio Jones, wow, what a start he is off to. And I also wanted to mention just one more guy, and I'm sure you're looking at him as well. Travis Kelce, the tight end out of Kansas City. No wonder Kurt is in contention for the league leading points between Forte, Julio, and Kelce. Those are some heavy hitters right there. Kelce with 22.6. He was going up against the Houston Texans. Had a couple of touchdowns. Big first half. Actually had a little injury scare early in that game. Fortunately for the Steel Curtain, he was able to come back and finish that game out. So the Steel Curtain looking solid out of the gate.
Looking at the Curtain, if you pick Travis Kelce or Julio Jones, they both, each one individually had more touchdowns than Cologne's entire team.
Yeah, and just switching over to Cologne's side, and let's address the big blow that occurred in the preseason. Cologne drafted Jordy Nelson, the wide receiver out of Green Bay, and unfortunately, a season-ending injury for him in the preseason.
Do we know who he dropped and made a switch for, or did he do that?
He did do that. I don't know who he picked up, but it wasn't a guy of too much relevance. It looks like his wide receivers that he started this week were Terrence Williams and Malcolm Floyd, so not very strong out of the gate. I did want to make note, and I actually have a little story to go along with it. He also has Mike Evans, and Evans, of course, as many of you know, did not start week 1 for Tampa. He's dealing with a little bit of a hamstring injury, but of course, as we mentioned previously in this podcast, or I don't know if we actually made it clear, but Fawcett and I live in this place together. And Fawcett, actually, our first interaction Sunday morning, he kind of went out of his way to approach me and had a kind of a concerned look on his face. And I said, well, what's going on, man? Everything all right? He said, I had a nightmare last night.
I've not heard this yet.
He said he had a nightmare. He's like, I don't remember all the details. I do remember like there was ghosts and somebody was trying to kill me. And in the midst of all that, I checked my fantasy score and noticed that Mike Evans had 0 points on the fantasy day.
I wish he wasn't asleep. I wish we could have had a firsthand account of his own
Yeah,
nightmare.
because I mean, like, this coming off to me, and I said, and it was funny because I had just got off the computer and I had seen that Mike Evans wasn't looking good to start, and I said, "Do you realize he's questionable for today? He may not start." And he said, "I actually had no idea."
And then you had mentioned probably, I think, around, from like that big fantasy, crunch from like 11:30 to 1, and you said like we can't even start. I'm not starting him in my other league. It looks like he's out, and then it was like updated pretty quickly after that he was not playing.
Yeah, he was not going to go.
Yeah.
But kind of funny and very odd that he would have a dream like that. And trust me, Fawcett, anything he says is no BS. The kid had no idea that Evans was hurt. He just had this nightmare. And it's actually kind of weird because, I mean, of course, he ended up with 0, so the nightmare was dead on. And of all guys to have that about, to be the one guy in your lineup that didn't end up starting and actually has 0, that's just a really weird
I
coincidence.
feel like since we're going to do this podcast here mainly the rest of the year, do we have like a new segment that's called like the Fawcett? We'll have to come up with some catchy, stupid nickname for it, or at least bottom left. Just move the mouse to the bottom. Yeah, like some nickname for it, like the Fawcett, some Fawcett segment where he predicts something, and then like unfortunately it comes true because I don't know.
Idea. And Fawcett's going to be featured in many of these podcasts, I'm sure. And we actually had him in another owner, Johnny Zaleski, another guy in the league, was over this evening. And I actually wanted to do the podcast, try to get them both involved, but we opted to wait for a little bit later to get some more of the NFL action in. So we had some more scores that were coming across the board here, some more finalized scores. So the long and short of it, in our first matchup, the Steel Curtain going to be victorious over Cologne. Steel Curtain 1-0, Cologne 0-1. And of course, we should mention Cologne coming off that championship loss. He's looking to seek a little bit of revenge.
He was in our championship last year?
He was. He had a very good team. DeMarco Murray, who went out and got again this year, by the way, a couple touchdowns for Murray tonight, I believe. He had Murray and Bell.
2 total touchdowns. Yeah, Murray. Yeah.
Right. So Cologne's going to go to 0-1, but look out. I don't think we've seen the last of that team this year.
No, he's got some. I mean, when he'll be able to insert Mike Evans in the lineup, it'll be able to strengthen his receiving core. And then I think this first week was just kind of rough for him because he had to deal with that Nelson, and no one's making a trade this early, and you're scrambling.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. So moving forward here, we're going to the second matchup of the week, and it's going to be my team, which I've now changed 3 times, which is very unlike me, but I promise this is it for me. I found the team name I like.
Instagram.
The Instagrams. Of course, an ode to my tight end, Jimmy Graham, and
what is the
I'd like everybody to check
avatar?
out my picture. It is a selfie of Jimmy Graham having a good time with his teammates. Russell Wilson popping his head up in the background, and I want to say that's like.
Who is that?
That's their other tight end. I don't know. I advise you to check out the picture.
There's a white guy with long hair.
Very interesting stuff. So the Instagram's going up against pass interference on the offense. And just real quickly, you can see by the GIF as his team avatar. It's Robbie Wright. And the basis of this team name was last year when we were in Vegas.
That's the Notre Dame game.
Yes, we all loaded up on the Florida State money line. And as you can see in this GIF, Notre Dame was going in for the win. I
didn't realize, yeah.
They complete a touchdown pass, which was totally legal. So Notre Dame should have won. But they called pass interference on the offense, which I've never heard of before. If you watch the replay, there is no pass interference in the offense. Phantom call. Florida State ends up holding on to win because of that call. And we all collect our Vegas tickets for the Florida State money line. But and I'll tell you that Robbie Wright, and I won't say the number on here, had some heavy action going.
Needless to say, his name pass interference in the offense is both a memorable and lucrative, or memorable and economical, auspicious decision. So for him, which is good.
So let's jump into the Week 1 matchup between pass interference on the offense and the Instagrams, and it is looking like pass interference on the offense is going to get this Week 1 win, and he had some big contributors. Currently sitting at 121.9, and that is going to be. It will not be his final as he still has Carlos Hyde.
I was going to say we were actually wondering maybe midway through the second quarter of this game who had Hydesy on their team.
Yeah, and let's start with him right there. Carlos Hyde in the first half against Minnesota has looked really, really strong. He has a touchdown already. Has 14.3 points. Man, this guy's looking like he's going to be the real deal. And as you mentioned, Reggie Bush, the backup over there in San Fran, already injured.
Which you can't say is shocking.
Not shocking at all.
But Hydesy already has 12. So he has 12 plays in the first half.
Right.
So if
he's going to have
do
a
the
ton
quick
of
averages,
opportunity.
24 touches, maybe even 20 touches in a game.
Right. So
it's RB1 status easy.
And that's just one of many studs on this team. Of course, Andrew Luck, who did not have a particularly strong game at Buffalo, but still ends up with 17.7 points.
All I heard the whole day on the red zone was like, oh, the Colts are having a terrible day. And then you still look down and Andrew Luck is 17.7. And I'll take over here as there's a interesting play happening in the game right now.
Yeah, if you see us looking towards the upper right of your screen, we're watching the second half of Vikings.
The thing that would scare me, and you can keep watching if you want, would be Robbie Wright took Gostowski pretty early, and Gostowski's usually pretty good for he's a double-digit fantasy guy every game, and that was behoove Robbie to probably take him there. And as drunk as some of us were at the draft, we were chastising that pick. He only had 4 points this week. So law of averages says one of these weeks, if you're playing Robbie next week or maybe the following week, he's gonna have that 4 field goal game.
Well, of course,
so you're just gonna he's gonna have more points than your running back. So there's that.
But of course the Patriots in that Thursday night game, victorious over the Steelers, had 4 touchdowns, no field goals. So that's where the 4 points come from.
Right.
I did want to mention a couple more guys on this roster and. Back to the Patriots and Steelers game, Robert Gronkowski. This guy, and I've said it, has the opportunity to go down as the greatest tight end of all time if he can stay healthy.
I was going to say.
Which is a big if,
the caveat.
given his history. Yeah. But 27.4 fantasy points, 3 touchdowns against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday night.
See the quick anecdote from our hockey league, and most of the people in here either maybe play on the team or at least know that we have a team. So we're sitting I was walking out to fill up the water bottles outside because the faucet, not Colin faucet, the actual sink faucet wasn't working in our locker room, so we had to go to the other side to fill them up. As I'm walking outside, the big Jumbotron kind of projector that they have at Ice Castle that I'm sure all of you have seen or are aware of, it was showing the game. Literally got through the precipice of the doors and looked up, and all you see is, with about 50 seconds left in the first half, is Gronkowski sticking up a big paw and catching a ball, and then in one motion just spiking it. And get on the bench, and our special guest was sitting on who may walk through this door at some point tonight. Was sitting on the bench and is a very big Steelers fan and asked how's the game going? And I was like, well, it's 14-0 Steelers, and he looked like someone kicked his puppy. So it was just one of those games where the Steelers weren't gonna win, they weren't gonna cover, there was nothing good was gonna happen for them.
So
they pushed, right?
Cover.
That AB, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, with
AB.
2 seconds left, and. What can you say? But, of course, I'm sure we'll get into AB as we find him on one of these rosters. And I believe it's Chad Zaleski.
So now,
we'll get there.
One touch on your team from my spot. So you have Lacey and Yeldon. So you have the Alabama connection.
I have the Bama
you switch from Roll Tide to Instagram. It's a good name. I actually saw that today and kind of, was like, oh, that's actually not bad.
It's cute. It's punny. It's cute.
There was a really good name in another league that I'm in. Last off-topic thing for at least this game, which you can only promise. It was Abdullah, so Amir Abdullah, Oblongronka, which is actually, I thought was actually pretty, for the lack of a better names that are left in the league that haven't been used. That's actually a good one.
That is impressive.
Rivaling the best, I think, ever, which is still somewhere over Dwayne Bowe. So we'll move on to our next game here. Segues are difficult.
I actually wasn't done with this.
Oh.
I did want to give credit to a couple random people on pass interference on the offense.
Blow him up.
Of course, and I mean, this is why I ended up getting my ass kicked, so to speak, this week. D'Angelo Williams, 13.2. Kendall Wright, 16.1. Benjamin Cunningham, 12.2. And the Titans D at 17. So it just wasn't my week. And I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to put my head down. And what are you going to do against a team like that? Briefly to touch on my team, this Nelson Aguilar guy, who everybody was high on in the preseason, is a 0.5 point effort. And here we go again. I'm not even going to get into it right now. But let me just say, buddy, let's get it going. He's a rookie, of course, the Philadelphia wide receiver. I'll give him a couple weeks here to kind of figure it out. But not the start the fantasy owners had hoped for. I'm not going to spend any more time on this lineup. Ended with 87.7 points. Respectable, but not good enough. Let's call it what it is. I did want to mention two guys. One on my bench and one on pass interference on the offense's bench. And this is going to be our first mention of him this season. It's funny to say his name back. This is directed towards Rod Kern. And so, of course, everybody was there. What a performance Rod put on at the draft.
It was quite the performance he put on later that evening was better, I thought. But
well, we can get into that at another time. First off, the stickers are on everybody's. I mean, he got like 6 stickers under his column. But you wouldn't expect anything else from Rod. So at the draft,
I'd almost be bummed out if
Rod
didn't get that
claimed
performance. But
Marcus Mariota, the backup quarterback here for pass interference in the offense, claimed Mariota was, quote-unquote, the worst pick of the draft. Many of you, I'm sure by now, know what Mariota did. 25 fantasy points, hung 4 TDs with only 3 incompletions, granted it being against the Tampa Bay defense. But what a debut by the former Oregon quarterback.
He had a perfect passer rating.
Yeah.
147.3.
But he didn't have enough attempts for it to actually be recorded, is what I heard today on the radio.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just thought,
he had you have to have 20 men, which is kind of funny.
20 men. That's yeah.
And then real quickly, I did want to mention, and as everybody witnessed, I got actually, I don't know how you want to refer to it as, to keep it edited, since this will be going over YouTube, I got hoagie slapped by Rod for taking the Seattle defense as early as I did. I want to say I took a maybe. Is there any way you can reference this to see you got the draft recap up? Can you look and see when I took the Seattle D? Because I don't want to misstate what round I took him in. Because quite frankly, I had a couple.
I thought you took him in like the third. You took him like a little earlier.
I would have said 12.
Let's do a control find real quick.
Yeah, I would have said 12, but we'll see.
Oh, it'll be what's
there it is. Yeah.
Yo, you found it.
Okay. Round 12.
All right.
So 12 of 16. I took the Seattle D. At that point, I didn't like a lot of the guys that were on the board, so I went with them. And I got hoagie slapped by Rod, which I willingly accepted. I knew it would be worth it.
Kind of weirded out to be sitting. I actually forgot. I think I kind of blocked that out of my mind that happened. Here goes Carlos Hyde again. This guy is a stud. Wow.
And I did just want to mention the Seattle defense had more points than anybody in Rod's starting lineup last I checked. So 18 points of the Seattle D. And let's run over to Rod's matchup right now. And Robbie, pass interference to the offense, proves the 1-0. Instagrams to 0-1 to kick off the season.
So here, we'll go into the quick box. So the Seattle D had 18. Yeah.
Okay. More. All right. And then, so Rod's highest scoring
player was actually on his bench.
Well, he had a 14-point effort in the starting lineup from the Dolphin D. So I'm sure he'd be loving a little Seattle D right about now. The 18-point effort bests anything in his starting lineup and on his bench as well. So
I mean, Bradford.
So 2 bad calls of the draft by Rod, but he actually may not recall either. So let's jump. Let's go ahead and jump into this matchup.
Needless to say, I'll give Rod and Birdie a little bit of credit / God damn it, Carlos Hyde. I mean, this guy just catching balls left and right. Sorry, on the TV over here. He gave the caveat that this might be happening earlier, but a guy on Rod's bench by the name of Booby Dixon, and leave it to Rod to draft or at least pick up a guy named Booby Dixon, had 6.1 points this week for Buffalo. Who is Booby Dixon?
It must be the backup Buffalo running back behind LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah. I mean, good for them. They cut Fred Jackson, so that's actually not a bad pickup. We'll give Rod a little credit for that. So hopefully Rod's listening to this, grading some papers, doing whatever, So we'll move on to Shake and Bake versus Eric Top Revito Bottom for Rod Kern.
Yeah, Shake and Bake, Robbie Cicchino out of West Virginia University, and as you've already mentioned, Eric Top Revito Bottom. Rodney Kern, and I've mentioned I'm happy to be the aggressor as the top. Unfortunately, you get the
Rod just overcompensates for his lack of ability to get anything higher than a 5 in his.
Okay, and we'll leave that up for debate between you two.
Debate? I don't think it's debatable.
So just to recap this matchup here, and this one's very much still in progress. I almost think we should come back to this towards the
Oh, AP.
To the end.
Yeah, we
Well,
should.
Listen, instead of interrupting, let me kind of go through this here because this is very interesting. Shake and bake, Robbie Chiquino up 88.5 to 75.4 at the moment. Robbie has the 49ers D going, and Rod has Adrian Peterson going. So if Peterson gets in the end zone, this could be flip-flop.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead. We'll leave this game as is, and we'll revisit this towards the end of the broadcast because we want to make sure that we get as much live and finalized results as we can on these podcasts. It's the risk that we take running this on a Monday night. We understand that. But due to some scheduling conflicts, this is the best opportunity we may have all week. And, of course, we want to get the podcast out to everybody. Jumping over to the next matchup, we have Breeze Nuts, Scotty and Matthew Lasson going against Triple J, Sean McLaughlin, Scotty Barlick. So a couple of co-owners battling it out here.
And needless to say, the avatar for Breeze Nuts is spectacular. Actually, that's the first time I've seen it.
Very good. Yeah, same here. Very impressive.
That's very good, yes. Give him that.
And it's looking like all Breeze Nuts. And this game has actually gone final. The final score, 85.6 to 67.8. Breeze Nuts is victorious. And starting with the victors lineup here, just a couple of notables. Of course, Drew Brees, 16.5 points. That's an okay day by his standards. DeAndre Hopkins sticking out like a sore thumb here, and I mean that in a good way. 23.8 points for the Houston wide receiver. Two
He hit that much?
yesterday.
I thought they were getting. All I heard all day on Red Zone was that the Houston's getting murdered. Did he catch every touchdown they had?
Well, he had 2 touchdowns and they had 20 points. So very good.
Holding.
So
Breeze Nuts could have gone even more larger. Yeah. The Peter Township High School English teacher will be happy with that. They could have done better if he started Bishop Chank.
They could have done better.
Yeah.
Had they started,
that was
Bishop
fun.
Sankey,
Yeah.
20.6 points, the Tennessee running back, and I told you I was fortunate enough to have him plugged in my other league where we start like 1 million players. So I won't take credit for starting him, but I'll certainly take those points. And I actually heard some of the fantasy experts, the analysts talking today on Sirius XM, and they were kind of after seeing the first week, where do you kind of rank Sankey among the running backs? And it is funny how quickly things change. A week ago, we had all these running backs ranked, set, figured out. And now they're talking how Sankey is over Doug Martin, and Doug Martin was being taken in the 4th round. I was getting Sankey in the 12th. They were comparing Sankey to Lamar Miller, who was also being highly sought after. Now, again, it's 1 week. Is he going to be able to sustain it?
It's one of those things.
Probably not.
I don't think you can expect Sankey to have 2 touchdowns every week, but I also think you could probably pencil him in for 9.5 to 12 points. He finds the end zone, that's your bonus. Yeah. But, especially with Mariota, the rookie quarterback, they're running that zone read. Apparently, Mariota apparently seems to have a pretty good grasp on this offense. So, in the sense of that, I would almost rather have Bishop Sankey over Doug Martin, because if you have Doug Martin, you have Jameis. And Jameis looked he looked like I don't know, he looked like a whore who stepped in a confession, because that was terrible.
He looked bad.
And first pass of his NFL career goes for a pick six. Brett Favre's first pass for his career went for a pick six. But there was a stark contrast in talent between those two, and that was just I was actually weirdly rooting for Jameis. I also had Vincent Jackson, but in a weird way, I just kind of wanted to see they'd be sort of competitive and him not just get slaughtered after the first week by all the pundits. But man, he did nothing to help himself.
He didn't, and didn't help. He was going across Mariota in his rookie debut. Right. So
4 touchdowns in the first half.
We'll see how that plays out. I did see they're at New Orleans next week. Tampa is, so that doesn't necessarily bode well for them.
It might bode well in Vegas, but it doesn't bode well for them.
Well, I already know that they're 10.5-point underdogs, by far the biggest underdog of the week.
That could be the biggest underdog of the season.
Yeah, a couple guys I did want to make note of in Breeze Nuts lineup, and let's start with kind of the big shock of the day. When you talk about guys that were going in the 1st and 2nd round, I believe he was a 1st rounder. C.J. Anderson, the Bronco running back, really not a lot of opportunity yesterday. I do see a red Q next to his name, and it looks like he had a little bit of a toe injury, and he's going to be okay. But what can you say? C.J. Anderson, You saw a lot of Ronnie Hillman yesterday, and if you invested in C.J. Anderson, you're thinking, what's going on? All these fantasy experts, once again,
We'll save that.
we're all
We'll save that for the end of the draft. Or of the thing.
C.J. Anderson, and you're starting to get some shades of Monty Ball from last year. Here we go.
And that was, I feel like in the grand scheme of the draft, there were a couple players that everybody was kind of like, I don't know if I should take them. I hope they don't fall to my spot. I hope I don't have the 7th, 8th, 9th pick in the draft because I'm going to have to choose between Gronkowski or taking the first wide receiver or taking C.J. Anderson. And I'm pretty sure if we look at the draft recap, C.J. Anderson was taken 7th. Yes.
Okay.
So he was taken 7th, and then that was kind of the situation where it's like I could either take C.J. Anderson, an aging Matt Forte, or Gronkowski. So that was, I mean, that's a difficult pick there. So Anderson, and that's the last place I feel like he wanted to be in the draft, and I feel like C.J. Anderson was probably
the right pick.
Easily the safest pick. You want the RB1, but now you're a little nervous.
Here's what I disagree with. I don't think that is the safest pick. I think going with the guy
that's Gronk the safest pick? A healthy Gronk.
Probably, or like a Demaryius Thomas or a Dez Bryant, which, of course, both those guys didn't do much week 1 and they're injured, but I'd go with somebody that's done it before. Has C.J. Anderson done it before? No. We saw it for a small stretch at the end of last year. For me, that's not enough to say he's worthy of a first-round pick. So I told myself this year, I'm staying away from the C.J. Andersons of the world, and I'm happy that I did. Now, he could, of course, bounce back in week 2, and we keep saying that only 1 week sample size, very small.
Right.
We'll see how it goes, moving forward here. But if you're Breeze Nuts, you're getting a little bit worried that your number 1 draft pick here is not getting opportunity, only 4.8 fantasy points on the week. We'll jump over to Triple J. I know this is dragging on a little bit. Our special guest, I believe, is just pulled in, or he's on his way here by all accounts.
All right.
So we may be interrupted here any minute. Let's start, and really a rough week here. 67.8 points for Sean McLaughlin and Scotty Barlick. Once again, they opted to more or less disregard running backs. They did take Latavius Murray, who a lot of fantasy experts were high on. He did have 8 points. Respectable, good, not great. You may be okay there, but you look at the RB2, and you got Darren McFadden there, and a guy that's going to be sharing touches all year. Can he stay healthy over in Dallas?
I mean, that's...
I'm not. Yeah. I am not a fan of DMC.
DMC... Oh. I mean, you go back to the point when DMC once had 7 points in a game by like 2 rushing yards and throwing a ball into the end zone. That's not here nor there. That was a big cover at some point. But also looking at his roster, though, so they have Jonathan Stewart, who I kind of liked going into the season. They lost Carolina. Carolina lost D'Angelo Williams. Jonathan Stewart put up 8 points this week. So that was a better start than Darren McFadden.
Yep.
And I'll argue that against Triple J the entire week, regardless of what sort of conjecture they had against that. But let's say Arian Foster comes back and is healthy.
Yep.
Reggie Bush is their other running back who's out.
Who's already hurt. Yep.
Chris Johnson, though, and we've now realized that Andre Ellington has at least sprained PCL. So that's at least 4 to 6 weeks. So they have some starters, but this is almost a situation where it's like, okay, each week you start a guy, and he's going to be the guy that doesn't find the end zone, but the guy on your bench is.
Yeah.
And that's always tough.
And I always try to avoid these situations where you got to make some lineup decisions that are tough. But Triple J here, formerly known as 3 Jackson short of the Jackson 5. They put themselves in this position last year as well. They've been known to go wide receiver heavy. Last year they had a nice year, a respectable year, one that took them into the playoffs.
They made the consolation game, I think, right?
Yeah,
they made the semis.
Yeah. I mean, they were in the Final Four.
Yeah, the Final Four.
And once again, they kind of go the same route this year with Dez Bryant, Calvin Johnson. And starting with Dez Bryant, broken foot, they're saying 3 to 6 weeks. I heard 4 to 6 weeks. It's going to be on the high end.
It's going to be 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
you're not bringing him back from. Yeah, that's.
Maybe I actually think it could be long.
Well, so that's why people think broken foot is like, oh, just come back and play through it, get it injected. Well, that's kind of a neither here nor there thing.
Yeah.
The only other comment I have on this entire matchup is if you look at Breeze Nuts bench, they have no depth. So Breeze Nuts needs to stay healthy.
Yeah,
Very
I agree.
healthy.
Yeah, looking down, and I'll read the names real quick. Sankey is the depth. That's it. Perriman, the wide receiver, Baltimore, he's out. Devonta Freeman, who I thought could be a nice little play with the Atlanta running back committee kind of in question, but it looked like Coleman's the guy after watching the game tonight. Talaferro, the backup Baltimore running back, he's out. Dwayne Bowe, he's a stiff. The Cleveland wide receiver, he's out as
I
well.
actually
A lot
didn't
of red
even
in this
realize he
lineup.
was in Cleveland until I just popped up his little thingy.
Me too.
Wow.
Colin
Okay.
Kaepernick, and I've seen just about enough of him. And Andre Williams, the backup Giants running back with 1.4 this week. So no depth there. But they do get a win in week 1, and that's really all that matters. 1-0 for them, 0-1 for Triple J. I did want to mention Calvin Johnson, their other wide receiver that they went with their second round pick. Very underwhelming week number 1. We'll see if he can bounce back. And again, a common theme here, those upper echelon players not really getting the job done.
Yeah, no one had a good week
in
this
week
week.
1. Yeah, there was a very select few. Let's jump over now to your matchup, and I'll let you take this one away.
No, okay, so...
Because I don't even know how to pronounce your team name.
So I think there's only one other person in this league, and if I'm insulting anybody else who's not a Game of Thrones person, I apologize, but that person is Rod, that would understand what Valar Morghulis means. But...
You opted not to play to your audience here?
Yeah, no, I'm not playing to the audience at all remotely. There's been a lot of name changes. I haven't found one that's like stuck, and I felt good about. But this one I actually do. But it looks like I'm going to lose this week, so it'll have to be changed Tuesday, tomorrow, or today technically. But so versus Tickle Some Ivory, I'm not sure, is Tickle Some Ivory like when somebody makes a 3-pointer in basketball? I'm not sure what that
No,
meant.
I don't know. I
He has a picture of a piano player, and
Yeah.
piano keys are made of ivory, so maybe that means like play the piano really fast. I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure.
Well,
But that is Johnny Z.
Well, let me tell you, Johnny Z's avatar here is of the late and great Vincent Lachey, the old Penguins pianist, organist. They still pipe his recorded music in through Consol and PNC Park. I hear it at Pirates games almost nonstop. He is a legend of the game, and honestly, seeing him right there, I can't help but get a little choked up because he was one of the greatest that ever lived. He left us too soon, and actually right before the Pens won the Cup in 2009, I believe. I also may be getting him confused with the old PA announcer, John Barbaro, and I know he did pass before, and he was.
I
was
know
a legend
John
of the game as
Barbaro
well.
passed before the Cup,
Yeah.
but I'm not tired. I don't know the piano
so good.
pianist
So
or
good.
organist. That's an organ. It's not a piano.
Yeah.
But we'll kind of run you through this. So, I'll give myself credit for that Amir Abdullah pick when everyone freaked out that I
did
took
want to
him
touch
too
on that.
early. That was his first carry in the NFL. He went 28 yards for a touchdown.
Of course, now let me just to expand on that real briefly here. Abdullah, you took him in the 4th round, and at the time, a lot of people, including myself, a little bit stunned. I thought you could have maybe waited and got him maybe in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. You opted to go with him in the 4th. You wanted to be sure that you had him. I know you were following some experts.
Jamie
CBS.
Jamie Eisenberg.
Is he a CBS guy?
Yeah, CBS guy.
And you showed me he had him in the 4th round. So you
Yeah,
wanted to
there
go
was-
after it.
I mean, I don't get paid to do this. I pay to do this. He gets paid to write the articles.
There is a difference.
So, in the grand scheme of everything, if you claim to be good at fantasy, you're a jackass because you're not. Because this is all you can only, as Matthew Berry says, you can only put yourself into a position to have the most touches on the field, and that's what he consistently says, and that's the truth. To have the most touches on the field gives you the most opportunity to score the most points. So, in a grand scheme of things, we know nothing about what we're doing.
Right.
So, we have an idea, but at the same time, who the hell in their right mind thought Bishop Sankey was scoring 20-plus points this week in fantasy over... start picking running backs, C.J. Anderson. Start Demaryius Thomas, first-round picks. So...
And there's going to be examples like that every
there'll
week,
be examples of that every single week. So the problem this week kind of looks like it's going to turn out to be, and I didn't have a terrible week. Vincent Jackson stunk, and Keenan Allen was great. And I texted this ass before the game, and we were both in agreement.
Yeah.
I said, hey, it looks like Mikey Evans is out, going all in with V-Jax. And we both loved V-Jax.
I totally agree.
And Matthew Berry, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning on live TV was
He tripled down. I heard him say that.
VJax in daily fantasy is my play of the day. Mikey Evans looks like at that point, he didn't even know if Mikey Evans was out. He was just saying it's my play of the day. It looks like, VJax had 5.1 and Keenan Allen had 16.6. So those 10 and 11 extra points right now, and I would be a touchdown from Teddy Bridgewater to Rudolph away from winning this week.
Right.
And I don't. And granted, I made the decision myself, so I don't really deserve to bitch about it.
Yeah, that's another thing where you can go through everybody's lineup.
You can go through everyone's lineup. Everyone made a decision.
If I would have started this guy, I would have won.
My thing on John's lineup is I caught him in a great week to beat him, minus his kicker and Tom Brady. I caught him in a great Marshawn Lynch with 12. Marshawn Lynch didn't find the end zone. Doug Martin with 5. So his running backs combined for 17 points. Randall Cobb didn't have a great week. Jordan Matthews on TV also didn't have a great week. Heath Miller didn't find the end zone. The Eagles' defense gave up 4. His kicker had 17. So his kicker outscored my entire team in point totals unless Teddy Bridgewater does something nuts here with 17 and a half minutes left in this game. So,
which, by the way, the Vikings still with 0 points.
Vikings haven't scored a point yet. So, and neither of our John made a great decision, but he actually mentioned it before he left that he benched Frank Gore in a game that kind of looked a little fishy in Vegas and started Doug Martin. He gained 2 points on that.
Yeah, Frank Gore only with 3.1. What a sit!
That's a good sit.
Jonathan Zaleski. Absolutely.
And it also was a good sitting that Funchess.
Yeah, Devin Funchess, 0.9.
And we all and Devontae Adams. So Devontae Adams is supposed to be this guy in Green Bay, and Green Bay ended up just running the ball a lot and throwing to James Jones. Funchess, they thought was going to be the number one guy that Cam Newton was going to throw to. He kind of didn't really throw it that much. I guess he threw to third Greg Leg a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? They started a couple wide receivers over Funchess, a couple guys that maybe weren't on the fantasy radar at the time. But really, not a lot to go around. It was the Carolina defense that did a lot of the heavy lifting.
So, barring a massive comeback here, it looks like Tickle Some Ivory is going to beat Valar Margulis in the first week. So,
yeah, the score in that game, 116.8 to 93.1. You mentioned you've Teddy Bridgewater going. That's the only guy left in the game.
No Kyle Rudolph. So I have the connection.
Oh, and Kyle Rudolph as well. So, yeah, our Bridgewater to Rudolph touchdown would make that interesting. But that hasn't looked promising.
Looks like we're moving to the last matchup with is Alberti versus Aces Deuces. Those are our guest gone.
Our guest does not make an appearance tonight.
The breaks.
We will spill the beans. It was one named Griffin Bergman, a.k.a. Bergie. He won't be here tonight, but I'm sure he'll be making an appearance. He's already asking for plans for Thursday Night Football this week, so he's going to be back around. He's also asking kind of a weird thing, and then we'll get to this last matchup. I had him download the Score app, and as many of you are probably familiar with, the app that updates you on the scores of games.
Very simple app.
Self-explanatory.
Right.
Now, explain to me, I watched him download the app. I watched him scroll through the app, kind of familiarize himself with it. Explain to me why he's texting me asking me the score of the Vikings-Niners game. Maybe the same reason he was calling me saying he couldn't find our place. It's like plugging in your GPS. That's neither here nor there. That's Bergman, for those of you who don't know. So jumping into this final matchup, let's start off once again. I feel I have some weird feeling that something like this happened last year. Anthony Aliberti with no team name, no team avatar. Almost like he didn't even look at his lineup week one.
I thought last year it was at least Team Birdie. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm at least trying to think that he had a better thought than that.
Yeah, and we were all kind of please give us something better than that.
I mean, I'll just put it this way, and this is not against Birdie, but Ben created a team name when he had a team. He had his own team the first year we had this league, so two seasons ago. Yeah. And even Ben created, who was living downstairs in the Rat Cave.
What we call it the Rat Cave.
Created his own thing.
So Birdie's still with no team name going against Aces Deuces Lounge, and we'll of course have Chad on some point through the course of the season to get the scoop.
Oh, you don't know what Aces Deuces Lounge is?
Okay.
I'll let Chad. We'll give a little teaser. No pun intended.
Okay.
We'll give a little run.
Come on.
Okay. We'll give a little teaser for Aces Deuces Lounge is a bar that there are a lot of criminal or felonious happenings at. Aces Deuces Lounge is not exactly a place where you want to take your female acquaintance, to say the least. But That's... Ooh.
Bergie,
We will keep that text off the air.
Bergie with some explicit words knows the Vikings are
snapped. Bergie also, we should make a note that he did just play in a roller hockey game, so perhaps...
It didn't go his way,
Right.
or maybe, yeah. But he's very explicit on the Vikings trailing at the moment.
There's a lot of purple sword action going on.
Yeah, as they are driving down the field. So to get to this last matchup here, and it looks like, surprise, Chad Zaleski running away with this one once again. The current score, 107.5 to 64.3. Both teams have a couple guys going here in this last game. Starting with Aces Deuces Lounge. He went with the wide receiver tandem to start off the draft. Antonio Brown, and I believe he had him last year as well.
He did. That was his big. He had him like in the 4th, I think, last year or something.
And then he followed him up with little Odell Beckham Jr. Brown, 19.3 points. We mentioned the touchdown with 2 seconds to go, and Chad
nice.
absolutely be loving that for fantasy purposes. Odell Beckham Jr., a little underwhelming in his Sunday night football appearance.
I had him in another league, and I needed him. If you heard the score I had in another league, you would think I was about as incompetent as, an 80-year-old trying to get an erection. It was bad. But, hey, we live and learn. Or we live and suck. Your choice.
Yeah, so we'll see. And I think the big question with Odell Beckham is, can he live up to all the hype? Of course, the catch last year has propelled him to superstar.
Right.
You see him on the cover of Madden. He's literally been all over the place since that catch, and the offseason was huge for him. I'm not so sure he can live up to the hype.
The guy is
easy to say that after the first.
The guy's like all world. He's great,
talented. Yeah,
talented. He has the speed. He doesn't. It's not so much that he has the size, but he has the athleticism that makes up for not having the Des Bryant size. We all saw the catches last year. It was ungodly to watch.
My thing is, now that you're this big star, how do you handle that, and how do you handle defense is now zoning in on you as you are now truly the number one guy? Because in the past, I know that they didn't play much together last year, but Victor Cruz was always kind of the number one target, and then you saw the emergence of Odell Beckham, and now it's kind of like defenses, now that they understand he's the go-to guy. Now he's in double coverage. He's getting attention. They got a guy literally trailing him around the field.
And you have the safety.
He goes to the bathroom, and you got somebody from Dallas just kind of following behind him. Some guys are up for it, some guys aren't, and we'll find out this year with ODB or OBJ, as some people call him.
Right, he doesn't like being called ODB. So
I feel like that just rolls off the tongue.
He had that terrible thing on Barstool, that Instagram picture or whatever that girl took.
You see that? Look that up.
Just Google that. Google ODB eats food.
Second here with the Aces Deuces Lounge. As many of you probably saw, what a comeback last night by Dallas. Tony Romo orchestrating the game-winning drive with seconds remaining. The walk-off touchdown, essentially. And Aces Deuces Lounge had him plugged in for 22.1 fantasy points. Also, 2 more mentions here, each with 22 points. Tyler Eifert, the Cincinnati tight end, and the Panthers D. We've talked about them a little bit already, each with 22 points. Got Aces Deuces Lounge up to 107.5. He has Blair Walsh going, who has not had a strong night. Yeah, he's actually a -1. Flipping over to the other side, Birdie, who's had an underwhelming week. He still has Mikey Wallace going. He had Aaron Rodgers, 23.1, pretty solid. Although with Aaron Rodgers, as good as he is, and I know you're going to second this, you're almost expecting 30 out of him.
Yeah,
he's that good. And then last thing I really want to touch on here, and I paid a little extra attention to this because I have him in my other league. Melvin Gordon, the San Diego running back, the rookie out of Wisconsin, correct?
Yeah, stud. 2,200 yards in
really
college.
Really good in college.
Yeah.
Only 4.7 fantasy points yesterday, and the man the guru likes to refer to as Danny Woodcock, taking a lot of the carries, a lot of the third down carries, and the goal line carries.
He had 2 touchdowns, right? Woodhead?
I think so, and Gordon had 1 called back. Ooh. I'm a little bit worried about my man Melvin Gordon, and we'll see though. It's still early, and I think as he kind of grows, the team can trust him a little more. He's going to get some more opportunity, but not the start I had in mind for the rookie.
And Birdie had and we have to remember, Birdie has Lev Bell on 2-game suspension. So at some point in this season, you have to almost kind of think that Melvin Gordon is going to turn into at least getting carries on first or second down consistently from week 5, 6, 7 on. So Lev Bell, Aaron Rodgers, Melvin Gordon at some point, it's not going to be at all a bad
That's right. He does
combo.
have.
It's to
I did
have.
forget about Le'Veon Bell, and I'm glad you mentioned that. He does have him coming back, so help is on the way for A. Aliberti. And again,
We wouldn't mind a team name.
please give me a team name, Birdie.
And we don't need even a name avatar.
And
Just something other.
And I feel like we've been over this with you, Birdie.
At the one point last year, I think we thought you were dead
and
until
I'm
you and
starting
Rod
to get
colluded
I
on
almost
Andre
get that
Ellington.
vibe again. Like I've texted him a few times for some unrelated stuff, and nothing that demanded a response. But the combination of not hearing back on any of that, plus no team name, a lot of red in his lineup. I'm not sure he's been very active on any technology here recently, and that's a little cause for concern. So Birdie, if you're out there, you don't need to reach out to us, but give us a little team name change or a picture or something. Let us know that you're live. It would be greatly appreciated.
And I feel like we're giving Birdie a little bit of a harp here, but he had 2 total points on his bench yesterday.
And that's not necessarily
And that's
good,
understood
but once again,
that Lev Bell is suspended. But there's no one else in the league that was in single digits on their bench.
But a lot of red there, so a couple guys probably didn't play.
Did yell at these nuts for not having any depth.
Yeah,
that looks depthless.
Well, it's out there, but once Bell comes back, then you drop a guy down from the starting lineup, and all of a sudden it looks bad.
Yeah.
So
that's about any other first notes on the first week?
Well, I did just want to give an update here to the game between Chiquino and Kern. Currently, Chiquino holding on to an 86-75 lead, and it's looking like Chiquino's going to hang on to win. And I hope I don't jinx him here, but San Fran's getting the ball back. I know Rod has Peterson. Only 14 minutes to go in the game, so it's looking pretty good unless Peterson breaks a long touchdown run, which he's very capable of.
I was going to say, yeah, so it's almost one of those where you want to make sure you stay up for that kind of thing.
And I'm sure, at least, who knows Rod, but I'm sure Chiquino's out there watching. I did just want to say thanks to everybody for making it out to the draft. Great time as always.
That was actually cool that we didn't have to Skype anyone in. I know Rod and Birdie hit traffic, but that's Pittsburgh, so there's not much you're going to do there.
Happen. It was nice having everybody out there. And boy, just gearing up for yet another season. It's going to be a fun one. I don't know if you had anything else to add. We did last year do the fantasy football stick'em, as we called it. I don't have that readily available.
Oh, yeah,
where we would shoot the gun at the draft board, talk about a draft pick. I'd like to get that involved, maybe a new segment. So we'll have to think of that for future podcasts. But as for tonight, we just wanted to get some of the basic information out there, kind of look over all the teams, see where everybody kind of stands through the first week, and to kind of start off the season. So I feel like we did that effectively.
I feel like almost the first week's too early to do this stick'em. Oh my God, Carlos Hyde.
That's true because you don't know.
If we can say the pick of the year, it looks like it could be Carlos Hyde. This guy is just.
I bet we look back on that and laugh, but as of right now, Carlos Hyde looks strong.
And he has no one taking carries from him because Reggie Bush walked off with his pubes were hurting or something. But I mean, I don't know. Let's go quickly. NFC and AFC Championship picks and Super Bowl pick. Go.
Oh Jesus! Kind of put me on the spot here.
But we need a segment because Fawcett's asleep and we had the Colin Nightmare segment. We can call it Colin's Nightmare. I think we should call it from now on.
Colin's
Nightmare.
Get his most recent nightmare. There's Cap chucking one up. Very inaccurate. I'm just looking over some of the teams here. I'm going to give you my picks. I like I hate to say it, but I like the New England Patriots to once again come out of the American Football Conference.
Man.
I think they're very good. I know a lot of people are picking the Indianapolis Colts. Outside of Andrew Luck,
like hot garbage.
I'm not sure that there's enough there. I think they're a lot better than that first game indicated. But other than that, nobody really stands out. Here's one guy we didn't get a chance to talk about. We have to talk about.
Give me put your
look
cursor.
At the AFC
put
West.
your cursor over the team.
No. Just look at the AFC West and we'll get started.
Oh yeah. Okay, so when you go to you're playing, you go to that graduation party, and you have your one of the dads who's a little too old to function, tries to start throwing the ball to everybody. He's trying to relive the glory days, and like somehow while he's throwing a football, like pulls a hammy. Yeah, like the wrong hemisphere of the body gets injured, and you have Peyton Manning. He might die. He actually might die. No one's ever died in football. No one's ever died in hockey. And there we've had throats slash in hockey. And no one's ever died in the UFC, like the fighting. But my God, Peyton Manning might die on a football field this year, and that was a big play. So Peyton Manning might die on a football field, and I will totally watch it.
If you could have seen my face watching that game yesterday, that was the happiest I've been in my 24 years.
And I'll let you have the floor here because I know how much you despise this man.
Thank you. And he's still, I mean, yesterday at 4 o'clock, I'm thinking, here we frickin' go again. I know there's been a lot of bad vibes on Peyton in the offseason. And in all honesty, my thought on Peyton is that he's going to start off the first half of the year very strong, and he's going to start to fade as the year goes on.
Oh God!
And there goes Carlos Hyde once again, and a face mask. This guy's a beast.
Wait, did they throw the flag?
I'm not sure. But anyways, yeah. If you could just see, I have never been so genuinely happy in my life than to see Peyton Manning struggle, duck out all these sacks. He
doesn't duck, he tumbles.
Yeah, he just goes down. He did not want to get hit. He looks terrible. And like you said, there's like an 8% chance he actually dies on the football field this year. There's no way. I would bet anything he's not finishing this season.
No.
There's no way Peyton.
It's sad though. Oh, it's sad. It's sad in the sense that like a great is going out. You could hate Barry Bonds. You could hate. Trying to think of a hockey player to compare this to. You could hate Chris Pronger. I know that's like nowhere near the talent level. I don't know. You could have hated Wayne Gretzky. I wasn't old enough to do that. But you could hate like Michael Jordan. But you at least had to think like that was probably the best player at that position that I truly may ever see. And I'm not talking like, oh, he won the most Super Bowls because Joe Flacco won a freaking Super Bowl. And if you're going to sit here and say, oh, Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl and Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl and Joe Flacco's better. But just to like watch the demise of that sucks because you know how much they want to compete. And you know how much like they want to still do it. But this isn't going to get as close as like Brett Favre's last season where like literally, remember when he went off the stretcher in like a fetus position for Minnesota.
He's hanging on way too long.
I remember when you told me, quote, you were like, I thought you were joking. And when you said Peyton came out and said he couldn't feel his fingertips. No. And I literally was like, my response was like, what do you mean? You're like, no, just Google it. I Googled it. And he said he couldn't feel his fingertips? He was bouncing balls to people yesterday. Yeah. If you have Demaryius Thomas, you're concerned.
Yeah, and actually Emmanuel Sanders had a nice game. If you were in a PPR, he caught 1 million balls for like 2 yards. But look, I'll acknowledge he's a great legendary quarterback, one of the best of ever played.
That's all you have to do, but now you can rip him.
But right now I'm loving the decline. That being said, he covered and costed. We won't go there. He still won yesterday, and Peyton being Peyton. I am just very excited I can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel right now, and I'm getting excited.
Well, and it's almost like scary because you see this. Not scary. Well, not for us because we don't live there. But imagine what like Denver was going to look like when there's no Peyton Manning. Like imagine. Then that was always kind of the thing was like, what's going to happen when the team that has Peyton Manning no longer has Peyton Manning?
Yeah.
And that was going to be the Colts, and they got Andrew Luck, and they met. The Colts in
what a move by that.
Colts in 5-6 years may look like the smartest team. Jim Irsay might look like as smart as he can when he's getting his mugshots for his DUIs or DWIs. Then he got rid of a $50 million quarterback to bring in a younger $50 million quarterback because got it. Ooh!
And there goes Carlos Hyde into the end zone. What a stud.
With the Lambo leaping.
All right. Well, this is dragging out a little long. I did want to end it with a little bit of a bang. Talking about Peyton, I wanted to kind of keep this clean, and I don't know if we've ever even discussed this. I remember telling John the story. And we've mentioned them in podcasts in last season, Barstool Sports. I was listening to one of their podcasts where somebody said a very reliable source was talking about how like Peyton's like openly like people have seen him cheating on his wife like on vacation, like in some bar he was banging some girl like.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know.
I've
legitimately never heard any of this actually.
Yeah,
so go ahead. Yeah.
So the lesser of the two stories was he was banging some like chick like in the stall at some bar in like outside of the United States. And this guy had seen like Peyton with this girl, and the next day he saw Peyton with another girl, which happened to be his wife. And that was a pretty reliable source. And then the other guy on the podcast from Barstool came in and said, I have even a better story regarding not one, but both Manning brothers technically did not want to cheat on their wives. So they both, still like in like the tops of their suits, pulled down their pants in a hotel room and jerked off on this girl. Two simultaneously, both of them were in the mix, and a very reliable source. I haven't looked at either one of them the same.
How reliable are these sources? You can say the source. You're not working for like a newspaper or.
Well, no, because they were like these like guys like have like they would never forgive me. Like genuinely, I'd love to tell you who said it, but just trust me. Like this is 100% the real deal.
Wait, they said this to you?
No, this was on the podcast.
Oh! I was like, and now so it's like, wait, there's nobody that you know that would genuinely like lose their mind if they told you this.
Yeah,
because I figured it'd be Rod.
So
like Rod would have been in the hotel or something.
So those stories.
Rod would have been in the room jerking off with them.
So I wanted to kind of keep it clean. I understand that's stepping the line a little bit, but that story has changed the way I looked at both Manning brothers. Could you just imagine?
And this was last year, you said?
No, this was a podcast I heard a couple months ago, and I don't know when it was relating to, but they were both married, and they didn't want to like actually have like sex with the girl, so they both together. And could you just imagine both Manning brothers standing there like with the funniest image is them like was still like the tops of their suits on, just like
beating on,
just like flopped out and just going on, and then that was it. This girl just getting like demoralized.
That's demoralized. I mean, shit. She wished she was being demoralized. She was being like, she actually deserved to move to like ISIS. I think after that. But okay, so anyways, your AFC and NFC picks quickly.
Oh my god!
10 seconds, go. AFC, NFC, right off the top of your head. Patriots, Packers. I mean, we couldn't.
I mean,
that was mine.
There's not many standout teams. I mean, Seattle potentially out of the NFC, but
if you want me to go like massively off the board, not off the board, but I would say Steelers, Packers. Somehow the Steelers always Steelers whittle your way into the playoffs, win a couple games, and God, you're in the AFC Championship, and it's a crapshoot. The playoffs in the NFL are more of a crapshoot than any other league, and that's so true. One pass interference call can end a season versus not.
We see it time and time again.
So that's
also last mention here, AFC East all 1-0 to start the year.
But, I mean, tell me the AFC East is
Jets,
AFC East 1-0 and AFC North 1-3, and I think that probably at least three teams out of the NFC North are better than three teams in the AFC East. So we'll let you all go on that. We're glad you listened. Hey, we got the hockey one coming soon.
Of course, we got the hockey one coming.
28 days till opening day in Puck.
It'll be here very soon.
Our last. We'll leave you with. We got a couple Snapchats from Benny Zaleski. I have no idea what these are. So
here we go.
Oh, that ass. He took a picture of the girl with the butt, and we'll let the other one come up.
Who the heck is that?
I don't know. He took a picture of some girl with a butt.
Why is he
snapping? And he's snapping he's watching the league.
There it is.
He's watching the league.
The league.
So it's good for Benny. Good for Benny. We miss him. He's in Florida right now, so we hope he's mentioned he's probably going to come home around Thanksgiving. So
yeah, and of course we talked about Kurt joining the league, my dad leaving the league. Ben actually we didn't mention he jumped ship from Chad over to Robbie, and the guy we call a shark as an investor. Of course, he invested in Chad's team last year, did nothing. 1-0, collected his cash.
Give the league. We're at an hour 3 here. We'll go hour 5 max. Hour 5, 65 minutes max. Give a quick update on what Benny's payout was last year for his $50 investment to the league.
I don't remember.
We may need to ask. That has to be a question we'll write down for when we have Johnny on this thing. But I'm pretty sure I mean, Johnny, what was the championship
So,
total?
I think the total was like $800. I know Chad knows it. That could be wrong, but I want to say 800. I gave Ben like 250.
I was going to say, I think it was 600, 200 was the split.
I think it was like 550, 250, but I was on the side of Chad deserved more money.
Chad,
he ran the league.
Benny should have got $100.
But I got some backlash from the league where people were like, Ben put in his 50 and was at the draft, but I was like, he didn't do anything. But that's kind of one that I think Chad was comfortable with. Ben was
But in a
comfortable
weird
with.
technical way, in fantasy football, not doing anything
Is probably the best.
sometimes the best thing because
Yeah.
you don't talk yourself out of anything. So that's kind
That
of a good
is true.
thing. Yeah.
But all right, everybody, we are coming towards the 1 hour, 5 minute mark. We thank you for
We're
joining
there?
us for the Week 1 podcast.
Hopefully we not ruin. Hopefully we help a car ride or a study session or I know Rod grades papers or I mean
The
shit.
second reference of Rod grading papers. That's way too many for this podcast.
Oh no, he actually I don't know if he grades papers anymore because now he did that. But I don't know if you still grade papers. Hopefully, Rod,
Yeah,
you're giving.
I do recommend that. I understand
Give
this
everybody-
at the end of the podcast. If you're in your car driving around, listen to the podcast then. 'Cause
Listen
kinda
to it
makes
on the
you
way to
drive.
work, and then you got 30 minutes home from work. You got a worse commute if you live in Pittsburgh. You might have an hour commute home. So
That's the way to do it. And,
we
and again, Week 1, kind of ironing out all the kinks. We're gonna spice it up a little bit. Week 2,
we got some more segments.
we'll have
We've
some more
thought of
things
a
out
little bit
there.
more this year.
And one thing that goes on is the more fantasy, the longer the fantasy season goes, the less fantasy we talk about. Which I think to be honest, people really don't care about fantasy. They want to get some of the hoopla surrounding our lives.
Right, because like
That's gonna become
you know
more
what's
right.
happening in the league. You can click on the scoreboard, but in our lives, it's like you don't realize like Floss is sleeping upstairs, but he's having nightmares.
He's having nightmares of Mike
And
Evans.
you also don't
0
realize that
points.
Bergey's showing up consistently with the Propel Gatorade drink everywhere. Like
Picked off Teddy Bridgewater.
where the hell is Bergey finding Gatorade or Propel?
Yeah, Propel's.
There's no
working.
Propel left.
Okay, all right.
But
We're signing off.
we'll
Thank
end
you
it
for
on
joining
that.
us.
My new team name next week because I've lost might be Bergey Propel. Propel Lemon Lime.
Have
so
a good week, everybody.
signing off, and we'll give you the Let's Go pens, and Eric's got a new cap for next week. So
Take care.
We'll see you when we see you.